Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to do something really exciting today. We are completely demystifying how business actually works. Think of this as your ground-up blueprint. We're going to connect the dots starting right from the absolute foundational truths of commerce all the way up to the advanced strategies used by massive empires. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First, the first principles of business. Second, the core machinery. Third, the fuel and math of scaling. Fourth, strategic moats and power. Fifth, the operator and high-income skills. And finally, number 6, mindset and taking action. Let's get to it. Section 1. First principles of business, the physics of commerce. So if we strip everything away and look at a business at its subatomic level, what is it? Well, it's really just an engine. It takes ideas and turns them into products. Then it turns those products into money, and that money into even more products. And how does it do that? By creating value for someone else and keeping the difference. You know, that difference right there, that is absolutely crucial. Because without profit, a business isn't actually a business. It's a charity or a hobby or, well, it's just bankrupt. Let's clear up a super common misconception right out of the gate. People love talking about revenue. Revenue is the top line. It's the total cash coming in the door. And sure, it's incredibly sexy to talk about. But profit? Profit is the bottom line. It's what you actually keep after you've paid for materials, labor, rent, marketing, taxes, the whole shebang. Basically, revenue is vanity, but profit is what actually dictates your survival. Now, to truly maximize that profit, you need to use something called first principles thinking. See, most people just reason by analogy. They look around and basically just copy their competitors, mistakes, inefficiencies, and all. But what you really need to do is break problems down to their fundamental truths. Think about Elon Musk. When he decided he wanted to go to Mars, the going rate for a rocket was around $65 million. That was the industry standard. But instead of accepting that, he looked at the raw physics of it. He broke a rocket down to its base materials. Aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber, and realized those materials only cost 2% of that insane price tag. No way, right? Just by reasoning from the ground up, he cut the cost of space travel by a factor of 10. Section 2. The core machinery, how the engine turns. We're pulling some great insights here from the Personal MBA. According to those principles, literally every single enterprise out there, from a kid's neighborhood lemonade stand all the way up to Google, relies on these 5 core elements. 1. You have to create value. Discover what people actually need. 2. Marketing, to attract their attention. 3. Sales, which is turning those prospects into paying customers. 4. Value delivery, actually exceeding expectations to build your reputation. And 5. Finance, making sure you bring in more money than goes out. And here's the brutal, honest truth. If you're missing even one of these 5 elements, you don't have a business. You just have a very expensive hobby. Let's actually double-click on that marketing piece for a second. Because you could create the greatest, most valuable product in the world, but if nobody knows it exists, you fail. That's where the 4 Ps come in: product, price, place, and promotion. Think of this as your absolute required toolkit. Just look at the promotion part. A perfect example is Dollar Shave Club. They launched their whole brand with just one single hilarious YouTube video. It cost them like $4,500 to make, but it went totally viral. We're talking 12,000 orders in the first 48 hours, which eventually paved the way for a $1 billion acquisition. Talk about getting people's attention. All right, section 3, the fuel and math of scaling. Okay, so now we're getting into the math, and you absolutely must master these 2 metrics if you want to survive. First, there's CAC, or customer acquisition cost. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's how much you're spending on marketing just to get one new customer through the door. Then you have LTV, which stands for lifetime value. That's the total amount of money that one customer brings in over the entire course of their relationship with you. Understanding this math is absolutely critical. It's the literal bridge connecting your marketing strategy to whether your company actually lives or dies. And that brings us to the ultimate golden rule of business math. Your LTV has to be greater than 3 times your CAC. It's pretty simple when you break it down. If you spend $50 on marketing to acquire a customer, that specific customer absolutely must generate at least $150 in profit for you over their lifetime. If they don't hit that ratio, you simply can't afford to scale. The math just won't let you. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the biggest players in the world apply this exact same math, but in entirely different ways. Just look at Apple. They're pulling in $391 billion in revenue with a massive 24% net margin. Their whole game is premium pricing and maximizing profitability. But then compare that to Amazon. They have an astonishing $575 billion in revenue, yet their net margin is only around 5%. So why the huge difference? Well, Amazon deliberately sacrifices their short-term margin. They aggressively reinvest almost everything they make right back into their logistics and technology to achieve absolute total market scale. Two completely different models, but both are just incredibly successful. And looking closer at Apple's massive business model, you can see how brilliantly they diversify their value creation. Sure, 51% of their revenue comes from the iPhone, we all know that, but a whopping 25% is now coming from incredibly high-margin services, like the App Store and iCloud. What they've done is create this sticky ecosystem that essentially locks customers in. And that's exactly what drives up that incredible lifetime value we were just talking about a minute ago. Section 4. Strategic Moats and Power. Here's the thing about business. Working 100 hours a week on a bad strategy will still lose to someone working 20 hours on a great one. Hard work simply isn't enough. You need a shield to stop competitors from swooping in and stealing your hard-earned profits. The strategist Hamilton Helmer identifies these shields as the 7 powers. We're talking about things like scale economies, where being massive makes your costs cheaper, like Netflix, or network economies, where having more users literally makes the product better, like Facebook, or switching costs, where leaving the ecosystem is just too painful for the user, exactly like we just saw with Apple. You don't necessarily need all 7 of these, but let me tell you, to build a business that actually endures, you absolutely need at least one. And this brilliantly illustrates one of those key powers: branding. Good Morning America actually did this real-world test a while back. They took a $6,600 diamond ring from Costco and compared it right alongside a $16,600 ring from Tiffany. They brought in an expert appraiser, and guess what? The appraiser found that the Costco diamond was objectively better quality. Better quality, yet people will happily shell out $10,000 more just for the Tiffany ring. Why on earth would they do that? It's because the brand reduces uncertainty. That famous little blue box builds immediate trust. And in the world of business, trust translates to pure, unadulterated pricing power. Moving on to Section 5, the operator, training the pilot. So we've talked a lot about the macro machinery of a business, but what about the micro, individual who actually has to pilot the thing? To run this engine today, you really don't need a fancy college degree. What the modern market is desperately hungry for are these 5 specific high-income skills. First, AI integration. This is basically a massive force multiplier for your personal productivity. Next, data analytics, because you need to be making decisions based on cold, hard facts, not just gut feelings. Then you've got digital marketing to actually acquire customers online, and persuasion and storytelling to convert that attention into action, getting them to actually pull out their wallets. And finally, cybersecurity, which is guarding the digital gold mine you've just worked so hard to build. Learn these skills, and I guarantee you'll always have leverage in the market. Finally, Section 6. Mindset and taking action. Now we have to shift gears to the psychological side of things because you need the right mindset to execute on all this math and physics we just discussed. Consider Jeff Bezos and his regret minimization framework. Back when he was agonizing over whether or not to start Amazon, he mentally projected himself forward to age 80. He asked himself, will I regret trying this and failing? No, but will I regret never trying at all? Absolutely, yes. Using this framework is an incredible way to conquer the fear of failure. Honestly, it's the exact same mindset shift that pushes aspiring entrepreneurs to take their everyday hobbies, like sketching cartoons, right? Like Walt Disney, or maybe just teaching salsa dancing, and turn them into massive, life-changing empires. And please remember this golden rule: progress is greater than perfection. Seriously, perfect is an illusion, and waiting around for things to be perfect is a complete dream killer. Our source material actually shared this incredibly painful anecdote about an entrepreneur who completely lost out on a $40 million company acquisition. Why? Pure analysis paralysis. They spent the entire summer locked away trying to write the absolute perfect business plan. Meanwhile, a competitor just got out there, started building relationships, and completely stole the deal right out from under them. You literally have to start before you feel ready. So, I'm going to leave you with this one provocative question. What problem are you uniquely equipped to solve today, and what is the absolute smallest step you can take right now to start? Look, you have the blueprint, you know the underlying math, but the only real difference between you and the business greats we've talked about today is that the greats actually took that very first step. I really hope this explainer has empowered you with the clarity you need. Now it's on you. Go take action. See you next time.